This session is dedicated to discussing portfolio tips for the graphic design program specifically. With me today, I have the faculty within the department. I have Bethany Johns and Paul Sewellis, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Yes, hello. I'm the grad program director, longtime grad program director, and I'm pleased to introduce Paul, who will be stepping into this position next year and steering this blessed ship. And we've both co-taught a lot together, and Paul has been the department head in graphic design, so he's not flying in from the huge mountains.
Yes. Thanks, Jennifer and Bethany, and hi everyone. Welcome. And yeah, I think Bethany, you said it all. I've been teaching in the department for about a little over 10 years, and welcome.
Wonderful. Excellent. So this session is dedicated to being an open Q&A. So now is your opportunity to type your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. That'll allow me to answer questions as they come in order. And I'll use the chat to put helpful links as we go along with this 1-hour session. But to kick us off, while we wait for some questions to come in, Bethany and Paul, when you look through portfolios, what qualities or approaches immediately catch your attention?
Well, that's a big question to start with.
Yeah.
There are many, many different things. The quality of the documentation is one thing. How things have been set up for us to view, the sequence in which we see them, the project descriptions, the captions, which can go alongside when you're in slide room. You need to know that we are not able to enlarge things a lot too. So we appreciate clear views of things instead of, like a 16 spreads on one slide kind of thing, because we are unable to zoom in on them with any degree of accuracy. And then the description, the caption about them is your chance to tell us that this is part of a larger project or whatever, or even give us a link to the larger project. So it's just, what would you say, Paul? Because you've looked at a lot of these.
Yeah, all of that. I would also say, in addition to all of those sort of finer points of like how you actually construct the portfolio and the imagery and the documentation, all really important. But I think we're also looking for a sense of curiosity. I think the entire application is giving us hopefully some kind of story about why grad school, why now, and the portfolio and the application are sort of together telling that story. So I think we're looking for maybe a particular point of view or a sense of curiosity, or where might you be going as a big open question is something that we're looking for in the application.
Fantastic. Thank you. So we've got some questions now coming into the Q&A.
Great.
This one's more of a programmatic question. As you may be aware, there is the RISD certificate program offered by CE in graphic design. And when somebody is deciding between the 3-year or the certificate program, what are the differences in that?
Wow, the certificate program, I have to be honest, I'm really not familiar with what that confers.
Not either. Yeah.
I mean, getting an MFA in graphic design means you're getting a terminal degree at a high level. You've really engaged with a curriculum that is planned over a set of semesters over 3 years. It's not just a grab bag of skills, not that CE is that, but I think that in CE, it's more of an a la carte. I will learn InDesign, I will learn Illustrator, and I'll make a cookbook kind of thing. It's a very different endeavor. I would encourage you to come to the webinar that we're going to be doing to learn more about what it consists of. But most of all, you get an MFA, and that allows you to teach it at a collegiate level. And you're just a better designer. I'm just going to be honest.
Mhm. Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you. So I can help chime in on this question. Is there a preferred method for submitting the portfolio, like a website or a slide deck? So if you haven't gotten to this step yet, all applicants need to submit their portfolio through SlideRoom. It's done that way so everyone is on the same playing field when it comes to the portfolio. And we do have, it's 10 to 20 examples of visual work. Part of the challenge for the portfolio is curating. So we don't want to see all your work. We want to see a range of your best work. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Well, I think another part of the application process supplies us with your website link, right? So
Correct.
if we want to see more, if we want to see, another kind of presentation of your work, we can go to your website link. So, you needn't put everything in there. Yeah, that's what I got.
Mhm.
And if you're just joining us, myself and a colleague in admissions will be hosting a webinar tomorrow evening. Where we'll be going through the mechanics of actually going through SlideRoom, creating your SlideRoom account, how to upload your work, how it looks on your end, how it looks on our end, how to utilize the description section of SlideRoom. So I encourage you to sign up for that. That's on our events page on the admissions website.
And you bring up well, actually, what you just said and what Paul said earlier, the portfolio is just one aspect of your admissions process. A really important part is the statement of intent,
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that we're looking at in concert with the portfolio. We look at the portfolio just to get a basic idea. Then we also have your statement there to see how the work that you're showing us matches your intentions for coming to grad school, right?
Absolutely. And also Jennifer mentioned the description boxes that
Yeah.
accompany the images. And I will just say, we actually read them. When we're considering your application, we go through and we read everything. And sometimes those descriptors actually tell a big part of the story. They're giving us context. They might even have some commentary in there from you about what this project meant to you, or what went wrong, or what you feel great about. All of that is context for us that helps tell the story.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need an essay. We don't need a
No, no,
huge
no.
description. But one of the things to call out in that description is if it was professional work and you were on a team of designers that created a brand identity, tell us what your role was in that, because you're presenting it as your work, but what part of that work was the part that you brought to it? It's really key.
Yeah.
And just make sure you're typing your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. I see some coming into the chat, and I just don't want to miss anybody's questions by going back and forth. Now, Bethany, you already mentioned this, but just to reiterate, this person wants to just make sure that you do review links in the description section if people do put them there.
Yeah, like if you submit a video, say, give us like 2 minutes of that video, not the 30-minute video, but you can link us to the 30-minute video. That's sort of like, if you think about us sitting with 300 applications to go through, out of which we choose 16 people to 20 people. We want to see the best, segment of what that video represents. And then if we want the longer narrative or the longer form part of it, we can go to that. But your website link should be part of your application data field entry, right, Jen?
Yeah, you'll be prompted for it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so the portfolio itself should just be your work.
Yeah.
We get questions if there should be a cover page, table of contents. Sometimes people include a CV. Don't include that in your slide room portfolio submission. It's not necessary, just keep it to the work itself. The application itself, there'll be a section for additional documents or additional materials. I can't recall right now exactly what the prompt is called, but you can submit those extra documents in the application itself, but keep slide room for just your work.
I'm going to interject something you just made me think of that is a please don't do this thing, which is some people say, okay, I've got 20 slides. And what they do is they load a multi-page PDF into each slide. So each slide on first view is like a cover page with no image on it, and which is how we see things. And then to go into it to find out that it's like 20 pages long is like, oh, please don't do that, right? So please don't do that, all of
Yeah.
you out there, here, there, and everywhere. Just
Yes.
like have it be the images, have them show us a range of your interests, your capabilities, your skills, projects that you've done, pieces that represent the kinds of work that you want to keep doing, etc. And we'll take it from there, and we'll read your statement alongside that. It's
Right
kind
now.
of your first design problem, actually, putting those slides together.
It really is. That's part of
Yeah.
the challenge for the application is curating.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. This is a lengthy one. To present my project, I scanned specific spreads I wanted to highlight from my book and compiled them into a short video. I know that a single strong image is often considered the most effective way to showcase a project, but in my case, there are more than just 2 or 3 spreads I want to show. Would presenting it through a short video also be considered an effective strategy in this situation?
Yes. Short being the operative word, right? So yeah, lots of people do insert a sense of the book as spreads. I would say maybe, yeah, I think that it's, as a book designer, it is very hard to think about like one representative spread that captures the whole system. But because a book is a system, right? You could show us that video. And let's say it's got a minute and a half max or something like that.
Perfect. All right. This person has their BA in studio arts, concentrating mainly in photography and collaging. I don't have specific portfolio towards any graphic design yet. With their other work, they do. I've been doing research these past couple of months of graphic design and haven't applied myself much. Yet this is a career I want to get myself into. Will that set me back in the application process?
I think Paul and I both have answers to this, but this is where you might want to read about our 3-year program, where we have a array of applicants who are from various disciplines: studio art, journalism, the social sciences, the physical sciences, architecture, whatnot. And everybody has that same question. Why graphic design and how do I fit in? And invariably, there are so many signals that we get from the portfolio about framing, about like sequencing, the things that you have paid attention to. I will say one key skill is typography, and that anything you can do to expose yourself to the study of typography, even if it is a CE class or a set of workshops through the Cooper Union or something like that, that show us that you have an interest in language as part of your work. Yeah, that whole combination of skills is what graphic design is made up of. But the 3-year program is meant to take those interests and skills that you do have, bring to them a more foundational practice, so that you then begin to practice graphic design. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, totally agree. And I think specifically for that question, the person who had a BA in studio arts and photography and collaging, I wouldn't worry too much about feeling like you have to have, um, the majority of your portfolio showing graphic design. We want to see, your vision and how you see, as Bethany was describing. So we would want to see your photography, we'd want to see your collaging and get a sense of who you are as someone with a visual practice.
Great, thank you. This is a question that came in the chat. When designing a portfolio layout, do you recommend including text annotations directly on the pages, or should the visual work stand alone with all written information placed in the captions instead?
Hmm.
I think the visual should stand alone with the caption in the description area, chiefly again because slide room is a limiting window. So any space that you take up with text shrinks the image.
Yeah, totally agree.
Get this question a lot. Should the 10 to 20 examples of all be different projects, or is it okay to have multiple views of a piece if needed?
I think an array of projects is the best way for us to get a feel for how you approach different forms and different content in different contexts. To show many views of one thing might make sense for the fine arts, maybe more than for graphic design, which is graphic design is always in contact with the world of things and ideas. So we want to see where you've made that contact, and the kinds of things you've made.
Yeah, totally agree. We want to see the range. So I would say more projects.
This is another very common question. Is there a balance of how much finished work versus process work you want to see?
Well, process work is great. I would say the preponderance of what you submit should be finished work. With process work serving a very intentional purpose, like this is how I got to that. If it was a series of stages or fabrication or something like that, or here's sketches in my sketchbook that relate to how I deal with type, so think about how things relate to each other in terms of process and finish and what it means to you also.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is a more of an application question. There's two questions here. What makes a successful and engaging personal statement? And how do you determine if a candidate is the best fit for your program?
That's the whole process.
Yes.
It is an alchemical secret ceremony. No, the statement of intent is, first of all, I'm going to make a plea to everyone to please not use Chat GPT unless it's to check your spelling errors. It's really your chance to give voice to your most authentic self. And because that's the person we want to work with is your most authentic self. So to try to impress with big words or something that's not, you don't feel comfortable with, please don't do that. Tell us, like, I'm interested in studying graphic design at a graduate level because blank, and at RISD specifically because blank, right? The least compelling statements start out by saying, I want to be a creative director of my own agency, because then you've just like leaped over the entire experience to say, this is what I hope to get out of this, right? So give us a sense of like what you think about, what ideas engage you, what your sense of graphic design is in the world and with yourself, and make it a good read. I mean, we want to get to know you. And so when we put together a class, and I think Paul can give voice to this too, it really is exciting to say, oh, this person needs to meet this person because you know, they have such similar or even they have complementary views on making or on culture or on whatever research topic, right? Or they simply are interested in the same things or different things that complement each other.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, it's true. We really we want to see your voice, your authentic, genuine voice, however that comes through. And that's different for everyone, you know. So um, there's no point in trying to think, oh, what is RISD expecting, or what do they think, who do they think I should be? Really, we want to hear from you. I think Bethany made that clear. I also want to make a point about sort of go a little bit further about the specificity of why you're going to school, why RISD? You know, we're always looking for, I think it's great for us to see that you've done at least some research into our program, the faculty who teach here, the kinds of things that people make here. What is it about RISD that interests you, and why do you belong here?
yeah, that's a really key point
Yeah.
because all of you out there are probably looking at a whole host of programs. And I always tell people this, it's like it sounds great to think about being accepted to all of them. It's actually a nightmare because then if you haven't done this really deep investigation of which program is best for you, then you have to do all that work. So really find out as much as you can.
That was a really great recommendation. Thank you. And, people always put so much weight in the portfolio, and it is so important.
Yeah.
But the other elements shouldn't be an afterthought either. The statement of purpose, letter of recommendations. Make sure you're asking people who can write you strong letter of recommendations.
Yeah.
We review the application holistically, so everything gets counted into your full package.
Yeah, including the transcript. I love reading transcripts and finding out what you took as your electives, you know? We really, I mean, it's a journey. We have entire people in front of us when we're doing this.
Right. You've already touched upon this question already in regards to variety of works, but what are your thoughts on variety of mediums in the portfolio?
Oh man.
Yeah. Yes and
Graphic
yes.
design does them all. We do
Mhm.
them all. So video, type design, print, go on, Paul, interactive.
Screen-based works,
Yeah.
things. It also depends on your background. You know, I think if you're
Mhm.
coming from a graphic design background, maybe you have a BFA in graphic design, et cetera. Then if you're presenting your graphic design practice to us, then we're definitely going to be looking for that range. You know, how do you operate in graphic design? If you're coming from elsewhere, you know, with either a visual practice already, maybe you're a fine artist, or maybe not at all, then again, we're looking for that range. How do you see what are the different materials that you like to work with? What experience have you had in with making? You know, and
Yeah.
that can take any form.
Yeah, and the 3-year program is especially interesting because we look at the work and we can imagine how graphic design will only enrich what you're already
Yeah.
thinking about. So last year, you know, there was an applicant who made work out of remnant clothing and other materials, but it was a suite of work that spoke to reuse and you know, they were basically collages. And another person had a kind of spatial practice with drawings in rooms that created these kinds of sequences, these kinds of pathways of reading. We get it, you know, we can look at that and say, oh my God, this person will really enjoy typography, like the clothing
Mhm.
person. It was like they were almost typographic figures. So
Yeah, we're really good at imagining
we're
where
really
you
good.
could go with your work. So
Yeah.
trust us on that.
Yeah.
Great. All right, this next one, thank you to this person for organizing 3 bulleted questions. Start with the
Bullets.
first one. What is the optimal balance between passion projects and client-focused work that you would like to see?
Hmm.
Did you say perfect balance? I don't know.
Optimal balance.
Optimal balance.
Optimum balance. Okay.
Yeah. First
Hmm.
thing I thought is I'm not sure there is an optimal balance. And
Yeah.
I think that that is part of what we would be looking for from you is what is your balance? You know, I mean, I could imagine for some folks that they may just want to show us their passion projects because that's what's driving them to go back to school and to go further. Maybe you haven't had time because you've been working so hard in your career and you don't have any passion projects. You know, that all of that is part of the story, and I think it's different for everyone. But again, I would say yes and yes. We would love to see both.
Yeah, and I think it is about how they complement each other.
Yeah.
So if you say, "Oh, I guess I need to show some branding," but it's branding that you don't really care about, you
Mhm.
can you can talk about that in the description by saying, "This was an important experience to work on a branding campaign and all of its, ancillary pieces." Um, I would love, you can tell us that in the statement, but I think it's the balance of them is again up to you, but how this part of you speaks to this part of you is something that maybe you can sequence and figure out in how the slides work together.
Mhm.
But I think that we're most interested in seeing where your ideas live and what forms they take. So client work can oftentimes not have any real idea in it, but maybe there's client work that you've done where you're like, here was the part about it that I really liked, you know?
Great. This is the second question. Any feelings about applicants using PSD mockups? For example, a mobile mockup, putting a screen into PSD mobile mockup. Is that okay, or would you prefer a flat screen without context?
Hmm.
Paul, take that one.
Yeah. Again, I think there's no one answer for this. I'm imagining both of those scenarios, depending on how you want to present your work and what the context of your work is. I could imagine either being okay. I think one thing we might be on the lookout for is if we see a lot of templated or
Mm,
sort of mock-up backgrounds and things that feel like stock imagery or feel like maybe things that you didn't create, but somewhere in there is a screen that you designed. That
yeah.
might be something that isn't going to work really well for your story. Um, in that case, I might say just take your work out of there and show it to us flat, so we can see the whole thing. On the other hand, maybe you've staged your work and documented it in a very particular way, and it's part of the story that you want to tell. Then by all means, go ahead and you know, mock it up, show us prototypes. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the description says this is a prototype for blank, right?
Hmm.
So just let us know what's going on.
Perfect. And then the third question, and you've touched upon this already, Bethany, how do you feel about individual work versus work in partnerships?
Partnerships are important and graphic designers rarely work alone. So it's really just articulating which part of the team, what aspect of the work you fulfilled as part of the team.
Yeah. That's really important. I would
Yeah.
really look for that. I mean, that comes up again and again when we review portfolios where we see something, perhaps a really complex project,
Yeah.
and it's quite obviously the work of a team, sometimes a really large team.
Yeah.
If it's not clear what role you played, then that's going to be a big question mark for us.
All right. Is it okay to share work from throughout your career and experience as an artist? The idea being able to share skills from the past.
Hmm. I wouldn't, well,
I would say yes, it's all part of you, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, I would, again, it goes back to this question of optimal balance and how that's different for everyone. I mean, if we are looking at a portfolio and everything is from 10 years ago, yeah, maybe that's not the most current story or the most complete story. I think that mix or that balance between, this is what I'm interested in right now, this is what I've been working on recently, but oh yeah, I also did this 5 or 10 years ago. Sure, if that's an important part of your story.
Well, yeah, and especially, I mean, it sort of fits with my philosophy about what the thesis is, which is the
Yeah.
culmination of this program, which is persistent ideas, right? That you're consistently trying to get at. So if something from 10 years ago is an idea that has surfaced again in work that you've been doing or that you want to do, then you're placing that in context, right? Instead of just showing us a medley of skills or talents that you have. It's sort of like, what bearing does that past piece have on where you are and want to go? If you think about grad school as a kind of vector, it's like, think about how it adds value to this experience.
All right, next question. This might be a broad question, but they're curious. When reviewing a portfolio, what do you consider the most important element? Of course, things like style, execution, and the story or perspective behind the work are all important, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on the criteria or priorities when it comes to the visuals themselves. What tends to leave the strongest impression during a review?
Hmm.
Well, I mean, the answer to that question is wrapped up in the question. It is all of those things, but I think it's the ideas that live inside of the forms that you're showing, you know?
Mm.
Um, we talk about like the story that the entirety of it tells. It's not a once upon a time the end story. It's like, what are we getting of you out of this work? It's that's a hard question to answer because it's sort of like the first impression is the visual, right? And then what the visual means to you in your descriptions, how it supports and augments what you're writing about in your statement. You want to get us curious from the get-go using the visual, obviously. And so the first impact is that, and the sequence of the slides within that.
No. Yeah, I totally agree. We're going to be looking for you in the portfolio. And the best place to find you, I think, is in those ideas. I mean, you're going to be potentially coming back for 2 or for 3 years of study where things like style and execution and media, and you're going to have an incredible time exploring all of those things and trying new things and new opportunities, new possibilities. But it's your ideas and how they're going to continue to grow and develop. That's what we're looking for in the portfolio.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. What do you recommend on how to portray a brand identity project on the slide room portal? Would we create a collage-like image with various elements of the brand?
Collage scares me a little bit because it would tend to put a lot of things into one frame. So I would say,
I would
I mean,
limit
it's
the
a,
collaging.
go ahead. What, Paul?
Oh, I would limit the collaging.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a word mark, show us that. If there's applications that are web, print, product, etc., find ways to show those things over a couple of slides, maybe,
Yeah.
you know. And if it's web-based work where there's some dynamic element, make a screen recording.
Yeah.
Great. This is another very common question that we get all the time through all the disciplines. Should the examples of visual work be 10 to 20 distinct projects, or is it 10 to 20 pages? So that we can pick, so if it's 10 to 20 pages, should they pick 5 projects and show them in depth by expanding them to more than one page?
Well,
I feel like we kind of answered this. Didn't you answer this, Bethany?
me? I don't remember.
Uh,
So many
in the
answers,
sense
so
that
many questions. I don't
you
know.
have,
Um,
if you're referring to pages as images, we're asking for 10 to 20 images.
Right.
If that's what you're referring to as pages, then again, avoiding what Bethany was describing earlier about loading a PDF
Yeah.
into one of those and having us go 20 pages into a PDF before moving on to the next one.
Right.
We really want to see those 10 to 20 images. That tells the story.
Yeah, remember that you can put a link to the larger project into the description area. So if it is a book, show us, a couple of representative spreads and on one slide even, right? And the cover, if the cover is part of it. I mean, it's sort of like up to you to curate, to use that word again. What's the most important thing for us to see to understand what it is we're looking at? So I think, it might be 10 projects that you give two slides each to,
Yeah.
right? I think the more projects we see, the more we can see your range, but we have to leave it to you to figure out if it's only 5 projects, what are the many aspects of those projects? It's really a chance for you to show us stuff,
Yeah.
and
The
links.
range. The
Yeah.
range. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes we see a portfolio where it's 20 images, all of the same thing, either the same type of thing or 20 views of one thing. And that doesn't
That
that
doesn't
doesn't
work.
tell us much of a story. Yeah.
And here's another, please don't do this, sponsored by Please Don't Do This, which is the slide that has 100 images on it,
Yeah. No.
which mood board for the brand or the children's book or the packaging, whatever. I'm doing this because it's like impossible to appreciate. So
All right, perfect.
you can do a lot in 20 slides is what we're saying. Yeah.
I'm jumping around a little bit because some of these questions are repetitive.
Okay.
This is the question about which track, the 2-year or the 3-year, is a better fit for somebody. And I think this would be a good example for others who have a similar type of situation. This person has a BFA in visual arts, and they've created artwork in a lot of media, but mainly digital art, some zine making, photography, and installation art. They also design graphics for on-campus student organizations. Do you think the 3-year or the 2-year would be a better fit for someone like them?
My first impression is the 3-year for sure. I mean, if you think about it's sort of like our rule of thumb is to look at our own undergrad curriculum as a map for what a good, solid, background with education and graphic design is. And we sort of use that as a rule of thumb and consider the other applicant's background. It's kind of like, have you not taken any typography courses or history of graphic design or basic form courses in the graphic design realm? It's like that starts to answer that question really fast, because those are exactly the things that the first year of the 3-year program supplies. And it's a fantastic program in that you then hit the second year running, and the people coming into the 2-year program are coming from practice with BFAs in visual communication, graphic design, and the like. And they've already had those courses. So you're not constantly running behind, not knowing what typography is. And it's a real gift, actually. Does that answer the question, Paul?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have nothing to add to that. We love our 3-year program.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And a lot of people can make, glancing contact with graphic design by creating a website. They just happen to create a website for, maybe they're working in an NGO or something like that, and nobody else has any visual aptitude, and they're like, well, I'll figure it out. And then you realize that's part of what graphic design is, and you can make a brochure. That's part of what graphic design is. It doesn't mean that you're ready to jump into a 2-year graphic design program to
Right.
us, because it's sort of like the deeper structures of what constitute graphic design are what we have to offer.
Perfect. All right. Again, I'm jumping around here a little bit.
Okay.
Are there any special requirements or perlim for the perlim applicant? Are there any specific requirements for the portfolio or statement of purpose for the 3-year program, which differentiate from the 2-year program? No, the portfolio, all the application prompts are exactly the same for both
Yeah.
both of the tracks.
Yeah, it's what you do with them and
Mhm.
how you make sense for us in your statement about how your background in sociology, and your work experience at X, has created this desire in you to enter the program. And I mean, we have some 3-year current grads who came from advertising, from doing
Architecture.
the student paper at a state university, and they're fantastic because of what they bring in the richness of their non-graphic design experience enriches that whole program.
Back to the portfolio questions, because this is the portfolio tips session. For some of the more like programmatic questions, broader questions about RISD's
Ideological?
yes, on graphic design, sign up for the open house. I'm going to focus some of these questions since our time is quickly running out, more on the
Yeah.
portfolio. Some of my projects include art direction, which can have broader scope compared to strictly graphic design. I sometimes worry that these projects might be perceived more like photography work. My
Mm.
portfolio includes a mix of editorial, art direction, graphic design projects. Would this be okay? I'd also love to hear how you view this kind of range when reviewing portfolios.
That mix is more than okay. It's great.
Yeah.
Again, it's just being clear about how you see it all connecting and what kind of work is the most meaningful to you. I mean, in the end, you are going to be going through a program responsible for doing your own work and not art directing. So when left to your own devices to come up with your own ideas and your own formal responses to pretty open prompts, but will you be comfortable being on your own doing that? So to really take a look at that. But I think art direction is a kind of high level view of how everything fits together, and obviously that's a skill. But what do you think, Paul, about that?
Yeah, completely agree on just being clear about what your role
Yeah.
was. If we're looking at something, telling us that, that you were the art director or that you had this specific role or that you played a part in something larger, all of that is very important for us to understand when we're looking at these images.
All right. Let's see here. We've answered that question. And, all right, you mentioned that some people link to documentation in their descriptions. Should that be a typical portfolio page or a medium style page with process documentation? How much additional information would you want to see?
I'm not sure I
Hmm.
understand the question.
Is the question about what are you linking out to in order to give us more, than you
Yes.
can with one image or two images? Um, Again, I don't think there's any one answer to that because how you've documented your work and where that lives, what kind of website you've designed for yourself, or maybe it's going to link to a PDF sitting in a Dropbox somewhere. Those kinds of things are all acceptable, and we will just follow your link and sort of follow you to wherever you take us. So I don't think there's any sort of one kind of form or medium that we're looking for, right, Bethany?
Yeah, we're also not looking for an epic story about how you made this thing and why you made this thing, but sort of a concise, um, you know, overview and insight into the work, and knowing that we'll get a chance for a deeper conversation about it all in another stage of the process, should things move.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also, yes, exactly that. Get us curious about what you're doing so that we want to meet you and ask you all of those questions, and you have more than enough time to tell us, the full story of that project.
Perfect. Yes. And this person did confirm that was the direction that they were going with in their question.
Okay.
Is the year clearly evident next to a project in slide room? When telling the story of my trajectory to RISD, just want to make sure 2015 work is obviously from a different time, skill level than where I am in 2025.
Yeah, this sort of goes back to the should I show older work? I mean, yeah, be honest and let us know what we're looking at, when it's from, and what it represents, right?
Mhm.
Does it represent your first film that you made and now you're working in video? I don't know what the reason is for doing that, but I think just make it clear.
Yeah. If it's important to you, then make it clear to us why it's important.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Is it recommended for us to talk about a project we've done in our personal statement, even though we have that project in our portfolio? Or would it be better to dive deeper into our personal story and our character?
Hmm.
Well, I think pointing to one of your projects as an example of the kind of work that leads you to want to be a grad student makes sense. Um, and it depends on how you do it, but you could say, when I worked on this project, I realized I wanted to go deeper into blank because I lacked the skills to do so, or I wanted a critical community in which to foster this work, stuff like that. A purely personal story is of less interest, honestly, than like tying the personal to the work at hand, which is like entering a grad program,
Yeah.
So we're not looking for total autobiographical exegesis, from everybody, but like to inflect your work with a personal take on it is super important to be able to do, to reflect, critically on your own work. And by critically, I just mean, substantially, with insight and intelligence. Yeah. I feel like I'm just trailing off at the end of my answers. I'm not sure they're clear. I
They
hope.
are.
Oh, they're great. And let's see here. See here. The thesis is a big part of the program. How important is it to see pieces of work in the portfolio that demonstrate the designer writing or compiling writing?
The design writing.
To demonstrate the designer writing or compiling writing.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say writing is a part of all of these books behind me, are thesis books from across the years. A really good thing to do to get a sense of what a thesis is at RISD is to go onto the Digital Commons thesis repository at our library, where you can actually view PDFs of these books and look at the kinds of writing that are in them. I mean, your statement of intent is your first written example for us, which is another reason why I'm asking, please don't make it be an AI generated, blend of what AI thinks a statement of intent should be. Make it be something that is genuine to you. Some people have, in the application where it says upload additional material. Some people have put in writing samples or a research paper from undergrad, on metaphor or something that helps, it makes more work for us, but it also lets us go deeper if we want to go deeper. So I hope that helps.
Yes, I think it does. And I also just want to add too, if admitted, we do have a Center for Arts and Language program, and they have somebody on staff that works with graduate students specifically on writing the theses. So that's a resource as well that's available for
And
students.
also peer tutors, as part of that.
All right, let's see here. This is a great question. I was saving this one towards the end. Do you have any horror story portfolio, any horror story portfolio inclusions that you can share?
God, I love that question so much.
Yeah.
Nothing comes top of mind to me. What about you, Bethany?
Did you say nothing comes top to mind?
Not for me, but I'm sure you do. I'm sure you've got some horror stories.
Well, sometimes I call the whole admissions portfolio review like a long drive across America, where like you hit Nebraska and there's no scenic overlooks but it's like horror stories to me are, I think it would be a combination of the two things that I asked you not to do. The PDF cover thing and then a zillion pages, each of which is a slide with 30 images on it. So that to me is a horror story. But other than that, it's all a fantastic journey. Bring us your best and your best efforts. There's really no horror in it. It's just a lot. There's a lot to look at. So if you're thinking empathically about like us sitting with 300 applications with 20 slides each and all of the reading and stuff, help us understand you clearly from the get-go, get us interested. Like Jen said, get good letters, don't delay, don't have one of them lingering out there, never to arrive. Get all your stuff together so you're ready to rock.
That's great advice, Bethany. And as we're nearing the end of our time here, you've already mentioned a bunch of stuff, but if there's one nugget of advice that you can give applicants preparing for their portfolio, what would it be as our closing question?
Oh, I don't know.
Just be true to who you are, truly. That's
and clear documentation, of that thing. Like design how you want us to understand you, right? In your words, in your images, in your approach, in your descriptions in the slides, all of that. I think that's the best we can do here. There is no one magic thing.
Yeah. And I will also end by saying that we are genuinely interested in who you are and giving us some kind of picture. You can't tell us everything in an application, but giving us a sense of who you are is what we're looking for. So, knowing that, have a good time putting together something that really tells your story.
Yeah, have a good time. There you go. That's the key. Bring your good time with you, and we will match you with others.
We will meet you there. Yeah.
We have a great group of people here.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Bethany and Paul. And I know there were still a lot of questions that we ran out of time for. Feel free to send those questions over to admissions@risd.edu. Bethany, if you're okay with it, I can, copy you to help answer those questions. But this is not the last opportunity to talk to Bethany and Paul. The open house session is on the calendar. You can sign up for that now. That will be a deep dive into the curriculum and the program at RISD, and to ask some more of these questions as well. And there's other resources during the open house session as well to learn more about what grad study is like here. So feel free to attend those sessions, keep the questions coming, and I just want to thank everybody for attending wherever you are in the world, and Bethany and Paul for your time today.
And thank you for your thanks. And yeah, come to the open house, because I go through it and I show student work that sort of helps explain, I think it explains quite well what the curriculum and the curricular trajectory is set out to do for you. Okay.
It's really great. We'll both be there. Please come if you're interested in our program. We'll see you there.
Right. All right.
Have
Thank
fun
you.
out there in the world. It's a crazy world. And thanks,
Yep.
Jen. See you later.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Great.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.